Hello. Today I'm going to be ranting to you about one of the most interesting musical projects that I think I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to be talking about Bull of Heaven today. Bull of Heaven is a group of two people, uh, Neil Keener and Clayton Counts. Clayton Counts passed away in 2016, so now it is purely a solo project of Neil Keener. Um, and they have released hundreds of musical projects that range from so many different sounds. But what Bull of Heaven is primarily known for are that uh, they have made sort of these like musical art pieces that are some of the longest recorded sounds that can be played in a digital format. They are specifically most well known for the album, or I guess the musical project 210, like a wall in which an insect lives and gnaws, to which the album is, like it says here, approximately 5.7 years long. Interesting thing about this project actually is that that's not true, because you can't actually listen to the full five. You can't listen to the full almost 6 year long album, simply because it's uh it got fucked while uploading. The digital file, while it was being uploaded, most of its contents are forever locked away behind a dead hard drive because the original upload of this was corrupted beyond repair. So what is left are these excerpts, which really just total around to like almost 12 hours, which is still a lot, but compared to a lot of their actually available musical material, it's really nothing. But there's essentially just like, yeah, seven excerpts that you can listen to of this. Um, so why don't we just give some of these excerpts a listen? Because I believe uh, this music is very much so a very transformative thing. Uh, very very mind altering experience listening to this shit. Even if you are just listening to it for only the extent that you are able to, because most people aren't gonna sit and listen to an 11-hour album. But so what you are hearing right now is the first excerpt, and it goes on for about, yeah, it goes on for about an hour. And I believe this is the extent of the musical evolution of this. I mean, just like skip ahead just a little bit. So let's go about 20 minutes in. go about 40. So yeah, very little change. That caught me off guard. That was a very low drone there. The changes are very minimal, it seems. Let's just move on to excerpt B. So keep in mind this is an hour in. So that's pretty much excerpt B. Just seems to be a screwed sort of sound collage of various recordings of someone talking or various other people talking, which I think is repeated in one of the excerpts, but it's sped up. Let's see what happens in excerpt C. So yeah, this is about 2 hours in. I can kind of get lost in this a little bit. It's like it's very much a sound sphere that's like kind of haunting. No, it feels like it's falling apart. I really wonder what they made this part out of. Like, I wonder what sample they took. Or samples. And something is to be said about let's see excerpt D first. Yeah, right. Excerpt D is where we start getting into like the ambient noise wall. Pretty much getting a straight up wall of noise. Anyway, I think there's something to be said about this cover art. I'm not familiar with the historical sort of resonance of this, but it's fascinating that like such a seemingly like massive project is represented by this fucking insanely large goal. He's got a fucking ring in his nose. You can see just like he is fat to the point of like I don't know. Is this obese for a cow? Like this is pretty fucking large. You can tell like that he's like an oversized like insane mammoth fucking cow because like compared to the trees he's pretty fucking high up. You would have to climb a tree, climb one of these trees to like climb onto this fucker. Most cows would probably be like around here in size comparatively. So it's very interesting how this is like representative of just like their whole ethos, really. This just large, unmoving beast that is so towering that it's hard to even comprehend, really. Let's see, excerpt E. Yeah, you see, so excerpt E was like... So excerpt B was more like, was slowed down, but it was also like there was less voices. So I wonder if they just took the voices from excerpt B at normal speed, and then they just like layered a bunch of the takes over them, like with a chopped up sound collage. That's what it sounds like. Also, I don't even think this is normal speed. It's just like slightly less motion. So yeah, at this point we're about 6 hours in, almost 6 hours. Check out excerpt F. Yeah. So excerpt F. That is a fucking, like, I can feel that in my chest kind of fucking drone right there. That is disturbing. I don't know if disturbing is the right word. Disquieting, definitely. Very, kind of has me on edge. And, man, they are so good at just like creating these particular textures that are just so fascinating. And I love these things because they just give you all the time in the world to just kind of soak in it for as long as you want. Because keep in mind, the idea is not that you're supposed to listen to these overlong projects in their entirety. The idea is that they put out these sound spheres that you can kind of just get lost in for as long as you wish. You know, they give you basically as much time as you could ever possibly need to fully just immerse yourself in whatever sound they want you to hear. So, yes, this is about 7 hours in, 7.5 actually. And then after a while, after all of these strange and unnerving sounds, at the very end of the album, you get to excerpt G. And excerpt G is kind of a surprise. So, yes, after this very long experience of going through these very low, like, gut-wrenching sounds, you're kind of rewarded for, like, enduring it by excerpt G. And excerpt G seems to be an extremely reverb. I can't tell if that's a piano or an organ, but it is slathered in reverb. Basically, the dry is down on it all the way, and it's just reverb, and it's fucking gorgeous. It is one of the most peaceful sounds that I've ever heard them conjure. And keep in mind, I've heard some beautiful, just amazing soundscapes from them, and we'll get to that. But for this being like one of their most well-known pieces, sheerly by the fact that it's just so fucking nuts, there is magic here. There's something really magical about how this just is, and how this is like hidden in plain sight. So that was like a wall in which an insect. So that was like a wall in which an insect lives and gnaws. That's one of the more popular releases. You know, it's pretty fucking nuts. The funniest thing is that that's not even the longest album they've released. This album right here, it's infamous. I mean, you can see the fucking absolutely rancid fucking average here. And yeah, this is. I don't know if they have any longer. I don't know if they have a longer album. Look at that. Look at that. Rate Your Music is having trouble trying to even render that. You cannot say the name of this album. You basically just say, all right, 310, and any Bull of Heaven aficionado will immediately recognize what you're talking about. 310, I believe, let's see, yes, no, you cannot listen to this album in full. It is 3 quintillion years, which, if you are unaware, quintillion, I believe, is like to the 15th power. Is it? I don't know my fucking math that well, but I believe it's like 100 to like the 15th power. Basically, this album is This album will still be playing by the time this planet blows up. This album might outlive the heat death of the universe. I find it funny that it is given this novelty tag because inherently there is something darkly hilarious about how this album, with a cover of somebody getting their fucking ass throttled by a bull, will still technically be playing even after this universe has like big crunched, you know? Like that's fucking there's like an absurd hilarity to that. I think that's like kind of something that's really at like the core of like Bull of Heaven's more like avant-garde experimental albums, is that there's just something inherently funny about how relative and meaningless time is, and how we've like sort of taken this idea of time. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and just play you some of the excerpts of this album while I talk. This is just what the album sounds like, by the way. That's it. There's something inherently hilarious about the fact that we have conjured this idea of how to keep track of time as if like that's something that matters. You know, none of us know when we're gonna die. And in the end, I kind of have this idea, really, that like death isn't. A lot of people don't even really agree that death is the end. A lot of people believe in an afterlife. Some people believe in reincarnation. I myself believe in a form of reincarnation. So like in a lot of ways, we've already kind of come to. We haven't come to terms with it. We wouldn't still be having thalassophobia. Is that the right? Is that the fear of death? Thalassophobia? I can't remember. We still wouldn't be fearing death if we had come to terms with the fact that death doesn't mean anything. But like, I believe we also wouldn't be so insistent on this idea of trying to keep track of time if we would have already come to terms with the fact that death doesn't mean anything. Because what's the point of keeping track of our life if death is just kind of a roadblock into the next one? You know? And I feel like that's something that like Bull of Heaven makes you kind of contend with, which is why I think they're so controversial. So many people really hate this band, and they hate a lot of these more experimental pieces because one, a lot of people just say they're lazy, and that it's just like a pointless exercise what they do, which is like, why are we saying that about art? Why are we saying that about any art at all? Art in of itself is a pointless exercise. Art is a very frivolous thing. It's not this grand fucking design that saves the world. You know, a lot of people seem to have this delusion that art can save the world. That is a fantasy. Art is a very frivolous thing. It doesn't really mean that much. So to look at something like this and be like, well, this is worthless. What worth are you applying to art in the first place? The only worth that's inherently available in art is a very subjective one, and even that, this being applied to a group consensus is just delusional. Yes, this sound has not fucking changed. Let's see. sound stops after a while. That's weird. This album technically can't even really be properly listened to in its entirety, simply because it's kind of a it's kind of a zip bomb. You know, it's not. There's no way that any digital player can properly play the entirety of a 5 quintillion year long. What was it? No, it was 3 quintillion year long album. That is ridiculous. That is an incomprehensible. We have gotten past the idea of millennia at this point. This is that is a completely incomprehensible. The short span of human existence is minuscule compared to the length of this album. uh anyway, yeah, that album's fucking hilarious. I love it. So you might be thinking, okay, cool, weird drone band that makes long albums. Whatever. But there's one particular album, Even to the Edge of Doom, one of their drone albums that I believe is one of the most beautiful ambient albums that has ever been made. It is 24 hours long. I have never listened to it in its full 24-hour uh, glory, but you can even see it's way more well liked than a lot of the others. Even though I would like to see more respect being put onto the more avant-garde works, but as far as like one of their ambient albums go, I'll just let you hear it for yourself. This shit, Ascending to Heaven. I genuinely forgot for a while that I was supposed to be doing a video. I just got fucking entranced in that shit. Yeah, that's even to the edge of doom. Even to the edge of doom is kind of like a very spiritually healing album for me. I feel like when I listen to this, it's this sort of reminder that there is like a light at the center of me. There's like this flesh that I have is crude. It's crude matter. It's not really it's not inherently what I am. Because what I am goes far deeper than what is materially inside of me. This album feels like a healing oasis for my soul. And I find that the length of it, the length of this record purely, for me, is so that it just has plenty of time to just let you sink into this realm and just be one with the sounds that you're hearing. And it's fucking great, man. Words cannot describe how fucking beautiful these sounds are. Yeah, and this is the part where it just like the extra sounds stop happening and it's just the sample loop. And goddamn, when you get to this part, it's just like you're already in the world, and this is just like the part where you've just fully settled into it. Just fully settled into it. Yeah, holy shit, man. Anyway, I think that's enough of that. I don't want to be there all day. Let's see what else we can explore. See, like, I find it interesting. I find their first album really interesting. If it'll load. Yeah. Their first album is really interesting because it is just this very low humming drone. It's a very sort of cold open introduction to this band. it just holds you in place for like 40 minutes with this feeling, with just this feeling that something is approaching. And it's just a drone with very, very minimal change. Very minimal changes. Very meditative. I could see myself meditating to this. And this shit, you know, I should probably talk about some drone metal on my next time, because this is close to like being straight up drone metal. It's not there fully because we haven't reached like Earth 2 levels of loudness, but we're getting there. I don't know if I would listen to this while I was high. I'm gonna be real. I think this might spook me. That's weed problem. So you might be thinking, okay, yeah, they're just a drone band, right? No, because if we go down to something like string theory verified, we get one of the best songs ever made. yet you just get this extremely moody, vibey, psychedelic jam sesh. Because I believe Neil would go out and he would talk to people who were musicians, and they would just be like, "Hey, you want to just like have a jam with us?" And he would record those jam sessions. And Clayton would sometimes just like release those jam sessions as a Bull of Heaven record. And I came into Bull of Heaven at a pretty interesting time in my life because you know, I was still kind of I was trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone as much as I could musically, because I was like, I found myself getting kind of bored of being in a space where I felt like quality was always sort of the dictator of the value of anything. And I was like, I don't like this. I want to find some weird shit. And I was still kind of in my first few years. I think it was in 2023. It was a very weird time because I was like getting over a bunch of shit in my life, and I was starting to sort of really try to experiment with what kind of shit I liked. And it was like, I found Bull of Heaven through actually, like a wall in which an insect gnaws. It was very fascinating because, like, I don't think I ever had the response of like, oh well, this is horse shit, to Bull of Heaven. I think I was immediately like, oh, this is some next level shit, you know? Because at the time I was trying to find the next level higher. And I found it. And I hadn't listened to their other albums, so I had no idea that they made music like this. I had only heard their weird, long albums. And when I heard this, I was hooked immediately, and I became immediately a Bull of Heaven dick rider, because I was like, any band that's just willing to put out anything, no matter who's listening to it, just for the sake of making things, not for an audience, not for critics, not for a single other person other than yourself, that is beauty. That is what I want in art. And that is what Bull of Heaven made me realize, is that I want my art to be like that. I want to just make things for the sake of making them and not have to worry about whether or not my audience is going to abandon me, or whether or not a critic is going to say that my shit is lazy. And these days, I don't care about either of those. You know, those don't matter to me anymore, because I realize it's all full of shit. Oh my god, that part. God damn, this album is so good. So they definitely have way more up their sleeve. We're doing good. So then, I feel the need to introduce you to another brilliant piece of music, and that is the return of Ghost Sheriff. Werewolves Are Chasing Me. It is something else. It is a vibe all to itself. It is a real spaghetti western. It is a real like fucking spaghetti western in its own right. This is a very aesthetically inclined record. Very much so evoking this feel of the Old West. Very much evoking this feel of like a deserty, like shanty town. And like it's very standoffish, but it's also kind of yeah, I don't know. There's just this very foreboding atmosphere of like preparing for battle, you know. But it's also again, it's very meditative because of its slow pace. It's very like. Kind of has this like rock back and forth feel, you know? Where does the throat singing come in? Yes. Such an insanely weird touch that works. So this drone just keeps going, and it keeps getting more droney. Yes. Oh, and this guitar part just fucking. Fuck. Yeah, you see, this is like the kind of shit that I love. That I love like Boris for, you know. This is why Feedback are such a great album. It's just like. God damn, this music is so cool. Yeah, and then it just starts getting really... Starts getting really fucking drony around here. Until it's like... Yeah, after a while, that initial guitar riff is basically just nowhere to be found. And it just, like... It just becomes this fucking wall of atmosphere. Come back. Then you're just left in this fucking drone. And that's Return of Ghost Sheriff. Jesus fucking Christ, man. I feel like I'm taking forever on these, but you know, it's just like that's what happens when you get an album that's so fucking long. I think I'll show a few more before dipping. And I might do another video on them some other time just to show some of their more underrated records. Well, I couldn't do a Bull of Heaven video without showing off Self-Trader. Self-Trader is one of the most fucking insane jam sessions I've ever heard in my life. This is one of the later releases too. It was just like, it's fucking magical that they were still like putting out insane shit like this in 2013. I could get high to this. I could absolutely get high to this. This is why I love jam sessions. Because they just do whatever. God damn this fucking part. And at this point, you're just like fucking amazed at the amount of fucking progression that this shit's gone through in a matter of fucking almost 40 minutes. And the album's not even done at that point. Sorry, I'm not really making much commentary, but like, you know, what do you fucking say about this? Like, what is there to say about this? What can be said? After a certain point, you just kind of like forget how this even began, because it's fucking transformed so incredibly much over the span of an hour. And that's all I'll show of this one because I don't want to spoil the ending. But keep in mind, that's all one track right there. One 80-minute track. Fucking balls, man. Fucking incredible. What the hell? And I think that's all I'm going to show for today. But I wanted to share this band. I wanted to share this musical project with you all because I feel like everyone. I need more people talking about Bull of Heaven, and I need more people talking about like not just their weird shit, but like I need more people just talking about them in general. They are so fucking cool. They're so fucking cool because they are really just a musical project of people that don't give a shit, that don't care who is watching, who is listening. They don't have any pretensions of impressing a damn soul. And that's fucking beautiful. And I think more artists should do that. I think more artists need to stop caring what these stupid audiences and critics all think is good. And they need to just start making without any pretensions to trying to impress these people. Because they don't need to be impressed. These people don't need to be humored. We can do so much more. That's fucking awesome. I love Bull of Heaven, and you should too. You should fucking love Bull of Heaven, and I need all of you to listen to Bull of Heaven right now. Uh, thank you. Thank you for watching. Peace.